It's Thursday's Talking Reds. We've got a desk today, so like feels all professional, feels like Sky Sports. But you know, like whereas like Jim White or whatever gets Kirsty Gallagher, I've got Ian Ryan.
I know where this is going.
But you know, I'm not complaining. So yeah, I mean, Liverpool didn't do anything basically in the transfer window as we expected. Certainly nothing major anyway. I mean, on the deadline day, obviously we signed Van Dijk at the start of it for 75 million quid, and that was decent. But then we sold Coutinho, and then Sturridge went out on loan to West Brom. All of this, you know. Let's run through the newish stuff that happened yesterday. The big one, Bogdan is staying. Big news there, and can't wait to see the flamed-haired shot stopper in action for the Reds soon. Probably not going to happen, that is it. Other stuff.
Mate, you know.
Well, yeah, you never know, do you? I mean, the two we've got, who do get a game. I mean, they're doing the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we get to Bogdan, well, we really are fucked.
Yeah.
Markovic has gone to Anderlecht on loan. Flanagan has gone to Bolton on loan. Harry Wilson has signed a new deal and then immediately gone to Hull on loan. Ejaria has gone to Sunderland on loan. Corey Whelan has gone to Yeovil on loan. Matty Virtue has gone to Notts County on loan. That was done a couple of weeks ago. And Lloyd Jones, permanent move to Luton Town.
Yeah, I think the two interesting ones there for me, Wilson and Ejaria. You're hoping that both lads go and get loads and loads of game time. My only concern would be they're going into two clubs where maybe you'd question the atmosphere a little bit because they're both in a dogfight. And if you're in a dogfight, how often do clubs turn to young players to dig you out of a hole? You know, I think both are in the bottom four. So that'll be an interesting one to see actually. Do they get enough game time where it makes it worthwhile? You know, I think the Grujic one was interesting because he goes to Cardiff and Liverpool put in the contract that he has to play a certain amount of games. So you're thinking, well, Cardiff are actually doing okay in the Championship. You can see that could work out okay for him, albeit he's working under Warnock, which is never ideal. And obviously, you've mentioned the Markovic one. I mean, that's just dragged on for so long, hasn't it? I mean,
this is fourth low.
Yeah, I mean, you just hoping that he kind of does okay there and maybe gets a permanent move because he's got absolutely no future.
No, seemingly not. I mean, you do wonder like quite what he's done or how bad he's been or what the score is that he gets absolutely no chance at Liverpool. But maybe one day we'll find out. But yeah, he's out in Anderlecht now, and unlikely to ever see him in red again. So I mean, as far as the deadline day went, it was a bit of a damp squib for Liverpool. Obviously, just had to sort of grin and bear it, watch Jim White get excited about things and watch people, you know, mess around with mobile phones live on Sky.
They big it up, don't they? I mean, no matter what, even there was a little bit happened. I mean, obviously, the whole Aubameyang comes in, but everyone kind of knew it was happening. Giroud goes to Chelsea, which is probably... It's quite a decent one, I think. I think, you know, Chelsea have got themselves a decent player there. Certainly a good plan B, a good option to have from the bench. Morata's actually been in a little bit of poor form as well, so there's a chance he could be starting games for them. But other than that, I mean, I don't know, it wasn't the most exciting, was it, in some of the last days?
I mean, you know, City had already bought Laporta, failed attempt to get Mahrez.
He looked good, by the way, Laporta last night. Thought he looked really good. I mean, only seen kind of extended highlights, but by all accounts, he settled in really well. He looked really, really good on the ball. He's pinging passes, good left foot, tall, big. Looks like he could be suited quite well to the Premier League again. Don't know how many games he'll get because I think, you know, John Stones was ill last night, so he kind of fills in. But a good addition for City, and he can play in the Champions League as well.
Yeah. I mean, they went 65 million for Mahrez according to the reports. Leicester asked around 95. Really, and Mahrez has now got a cob on. He went missing yesterday. He loves transfer deadline day, Mahrez, doesn't he? Got to sit in an airport on the last one.
Yeah.
This one he's gone missing, and he's putting out really weird statements via friends, which they read out on Sky. I don't know if you saw that. It was quite bizarre. It was like, oh, he's depressed and he's this and he's that. But they haven't let him go. All the best getting him in the right state of mind and playing again. Spurs. We knew they were getting Moura and did. Chelsea done Palmeira and Giroud, as you mentioned. Arsenal have done Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan. A new deal for Ozil as well, over £300,000 a week. And they tried to get Johnny Evans, £12 million, but that didn't happen. But in terms of sort of where we are as Liverpool fans, I think, you know, I had me rant the other day, didn't I?
Yeah.
I don't want to have another one. But it still does feel a little bit of a sort of missed opportunity for Liverpool in terms of being in a good position and not, you know, taking a little bit of a gamble here. You know, you've let one of your best players go. You haven't improved from an attacking sense then, have you? And then you've let Sturridge go too. Sturridge I'm less worried about. I mean, I think, you know, it was quite clear he wasn't getting much game time.
Yeah.
I get the arguments about coming off the bench and being able to score. I've made them myself, but equally already I'm just starting to think, well, I'm not too bothered about that. But what I am still bothered about is just the front three. I mean, there's some quotes from Klopp today on the official website, and he was talking about Firmino, who's now got 19 goals for Liverpool this season, and he essentially always plays Firmino. I mean, there's been lots of rotation, around about 3 times more than last season, but Firmino pretty much always plays, and Klopp was asked about that, and he says he's very important. We have a lot of quality in the team, but still sometimes at a high level, sometimes low, sometimes in the middle, not really consistent all the time in our offensive play. But Roberto delivers. He doesn't score all the time. He's not always brilliant, but if he's not brilliant, then he works like a horse, and it's very important that you have this kind of stability there. Then he says Ingsy's in a good way, Dom is in a good way, but it's not easy to pass Roberto. Now that's basically, to me, a bit of an admission to what we're all saying. You know, that there's a huge drop off from if Firmino can't play to Ings, to Dom Solanke, and that's the concern, isn't it? I mean, I know it's hard to have loads of absolutely top class players and keep them all happy, but I'd rather Liverpool had an attempt at it. I mean, Klopp, I just had to look up there. I mean, he's obviously been with us now since October 2015. He's only signed 12 players.
I know.
And that's quite conservative, really, isn't it? In that time.
I mean, we've touched on it on a number of shows, and you mentioned there that bit of a rant. I think it was on a Team Talk show on Tour Play, and I was similar to you. I've been a bit disappointed with our lack of business in January. I think everyone could get on board with the Van Dijk thing, really good signing, but in that final third, those game changers, we look 1 or 2 light of those lads, and I think you could certainly make a case for a front 3 player to go in and maybe offer some cover for Firmino. I'll take your point. It's not always easy persuading the lad to come and be second fiddle to someone like Firmino, so there's an issue there. I also think in the midfield as well, I think there's games where you've looked at our midfield in recent games, and there's attributes in there, of course there is, but in terms of a lad who can maybe unpick the lock sometimes, I think we're lacking that guy as well in those games where maybe teams are going to set up to really kind of stifle and frustrate Liverpool. I think Huddersfield, no disrespect to them, probably one of the poorest teams I've seen this season. I fully expect them to go down, to be honest, which is a bit of a shame, but I think they will. And they made it quite easy for us, but there'll be games where it's not as easy, and you're looking for someone with a little bit of genius in the boots who can maybe open up, you know, really tight games and tight defences. And I'm not sure we've got that. So that's a concern. But yeah, the front 3 thing. If there was an issue there with Firmino, I mean, you could see him maybe having to tweak the system, or maybe play maybe 2 up front, maybe play Danny Ings, but no one knows what Danny Ings' level is, so that's my concern with Danny Ings. Listen,
hardly played for 2 years.
Hardly played for 2 years. Listen, he's a busy player. He comes on, he gets involved, he works hard. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of his level, in terms of his class, you know, he's not in the same spectrum as Firmino is. Few are, to be fair, but I think we're at the business end now, so you're going to have to manage those minutes carefully. Listen, we're not in the FA Cup, that's a blow, but on the plus side it reduces games. I'd much rather be in it, don't get me wrong, but maybe there's not the need to rotate as much. That said, you know, Champions League starts soon, and I think he's going to have one eye on what he does around those games. And
I mean, it's just going to be a case that we're all massively keeping our fingers crossed regarding injuries and everything else. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the players Klopp has bought, just quickly run through. Grujic, Mane, Karius, Klavan, Matip, Meninga, we're not really counting him, so we're down to 11. Wijnaldum, Salah, Solanke, Robertson, Chamberlain, and of course Van Dijk in this window. In terms of the Premier League, obviously there was a load of Premier League action last night. Tottenham, managing to beat Manchester United in fairly hilarious fashion as well. We'll get into that a little bit more in the second half of the show, but just wanted to say, obviously, in terms of the table, we're now up to third on goal difference after Chelsea got tonked by Bournemouth.
It's nice to move up a spot without playing.
I know, equally as hilarious that they got beat by Bournemouth. City, though, are now 18 points ahead of us. It's almost becoming, just forget about them. It's the race for second, isn't it? And United are only 3 points ahead of us now in second. Spurs, though, only 2 points behind us now in fifth. So it's incredibly tight, and I think it's just worth saying that two big clubs and two big managers as well are basically set up now, the way this league is, to fail in inverted commas every season, and it makes Sunday's game massive, doesn't it?
Robert, Sunday's huge, and I think that, just to take it back to the transfer thing again a little bit, I think that's where maybe you're thinking roll the dice, maybe just get one in. Just Spurs have gone and got one in. Everyone's trying to maybe strengthen a little bit, bar Liverpool, so you do see it as a bit of a risk. But listen, we are where we are now, so let's get behind the lads who are going to be playing for the next kind of 12, 13 games of the season. But Sunday's huge. Sunday's really, really big. But I actually think it's a game that suits Liverpool. I think we saw it at Anfield last year. The scoreline flattered Spurs a little bit. We were all over them. And listen, we owed them one as well for the game at Wembley. It was a really poor day at the office for us. So yeah, Sunday's massive. But going into those games, I'm more confident to say going into maybe some of the games where you think Liverpool should win. Southampton a week later, listen, we should win that game, but that's probably one where you think, is it a potential banana skin? The Champions League's just after that as well, but certainly the Spurs game, it's got all the makings of another classic again, similar to the City game. Yeah,
should be rocking. You expect Spurs to come and try and play a bit. It should be a good game. Both quality sides, to be honest, and Spurs did look good last night. We're going to be back in a minute. We're going to be talking about what's in the papers today. All right then, today's newspapers, away from the transfer deadline, there appears to be plenty of reports basically of Liverpool's rival managers just losing the shit, which is quite enjoyable, I've got to say. So Conte, on the back of the Times there, don't blame me for slump. And basically he's sort of just going head to head with the board, really, with the people above him. He says, after the first game this season, you tried to put pressure on my job, but I'm trying to do my best. We're getting 120%. I'm exploiting this squad at maximum level. If someone doesn't agree about this, I'm here. I have to accept every situation. I know that I'm doing a great job. Me, the staff and the players. Blah, blah, blah. He basically says, if we're able to reach a place in the Champions League, it would be a great success for us. If we want to only dream and not see the reality, I can tell you we can fight for the title. So that's interesting, because it's kind of, if you read between the lines, obviously he seems to be saying that, he's not being given the tools to do the job. It seems to be fairly widely known, reported that he's going to go. And Chelsea go again. But it's just sort of nice that, A, that they got beat by Bournemouth, but B, that the managers go in public on what should probably remain behind the walls of Chelsea, really.
Well, it just creates this uncertainty, doesn't it, at the club? So if you're going to get that uncertainty, then it can kind of, seep into some of the players as well, attitude-wise. Are they going to be on it every single game if they know there's trouble kind of between manager and potentially the owner? I think he's been alluding to for a while that he's not getting the players he wants. Now, there's been there's been a few different kind of twists to this, because I know there's been a few journalists actually who've said he is getting the players he wants, maybe just not first choice, but he's given a list out and he's getting maybe the second or third choice, but he doesn't seem happy with that at all. And I can only see it ending in one way, and that'll be that Conte won't be managing Chelsea next season. So uncertainty there, and then you look at one or two other clubs as well. I think the likes of Arsenal now, for me, look like they're a little bit too far behind, and they've done a little bit of business, but I just don't see them in the conversation for that top four spot. So from that point of view, it's looking pretty good for Liverpool.
Mourinho as well, he's also fuming after losing to Spurs. Says about like saw noises and hammering and all that sort of stuff. They're working on the downstairs in here, and there's not a lot we can do about it if the mics are picking that up. Mourinho was fuming about losing to Spurs, as you would be, and Phil Jones's comedy own goal, which we've obviously all greatly enjoyed.
How did he get it in from there?
I don't know.
I wouldn't have fancied Harry Kane to put it in from there, you know what I mean?
Well,
it's an impossible angle.
it's funny that you should mention Harry Kane, because Phil Jones's own manager, Jose Mourinho, said after the game it was an amazing goal that Harry Kane would love to score.
Absolutely.
So he's thrown him under the bus a little bit there. And talking of throwing under the bus, and Mourinho loves a bus, doesn't he? He also he brings Fellaini on and then takes him off again within 7 minutes.
I know. There's talk, there was a little injury there now, so I don't know whether it was quite... I mean, I was laughing at the time because I thought he's hooked him in on 8 minutes, which is outrageous.
He didn't look happy, like.
He didn't look happy. He went straight down the tunnel.
There was no physio going with him or anything.
I don't know, but I mean, maybe he's trying to protect his decision, to protect the player, doesn't want to humiliate him too much, although it certainly kind of looked to be a kind of real humiliation for him last night. But he's saying there's maybe a little bit of ligaments issues in terms of his knee, but yeah, we'll see.
I mean, a statement I don't often make, but fair play to the Daily Mail for this graphic, which made me laugh. It's a Fellaini touch map. So you know, he's on the pitch for 7 minutes. He contributed 1 pass, 2 touches, no shots, and then he was off again. So yeah, quite enjoyed that from the Mail. Bit of piss taken there. And the other one here, not in the papers unfortunately, I really wanted to show you, but so I'm just going to mention it anyway, is that the Newcastle fans at St James's Park took a huge banner in. It was made up of sections, and it basically took up the whole of the Gallagate, I think it is. It was a Kevin Keegan quote. Now, obviously, you should be aware that there's a sort of ongoing battle between, fans and owner. Mike Ashley, not a popular fella up there, and they were hopeful that they were going to get him out, and that there was going to be these new investors and some of them come in and buy the club. It hasn't happened. Rafa's not looking a particularly happy man about sort of what he's being given to spend and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a Kevin Keegan quote. This banner, it says, "Don't ever give up on your club. Keep supporting it, it's your club, and trust me, one day you'll get your club back and it will be everything you wanted it to be. Newcastle United is bigger than anyone, it hurts, I know, but just keep going. He's only one man, we are a city, a whole population, trust me." I liked it. I like the passion from the fans. I like the idea that they're fighting for the club. And we've been through it with Hicks and Gillette. It was 10 years yesterday since Spirit of Shankly was formed. And if you have a look at their Twitter account, they're putting out all the highlights there. Our very own Neil Atkinson, of course, was one of the early chairmen of Spirit of Shankly. Andy Heaton was involved as well. And it just sort of underlines for me that sometimes football can feel a little bit detached from fans, I think, and especially in the modern age, and with the media circus around it, ticket prices, the wages players are paid, and all the rest of it. But it's the old saying, isn't it? Football without fans is nothing.
Absolutely, and I think what's pleasing me from this situation is that they seem to be sticking with Rafa. There's not many that seem to be turning on him. It's very much directed at the owner, who's, I think, is taking a huge gamble. I mean, he's not, again, shown any willingness to invest in this window, and he's obviously trying to sell the club. He's actively trying to sell the club, we know that. But if they go down, I mean,
it's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell, isn't it? They need to stay in the Premier League. So I'm surprised he's not giving Rafa a little bit more money to do a bit of business in January. And when you look at some of the signings Newcastle have made, I mean, he's really shopping most of the time, kind of bargain basements, isn't he? Obviously, he gets Slimani in yesterday from Leicester. Wow. I'm not really want to get you too excited. But not only that, I think there was an interesting kind of stat the other day where Michael Owen's still Newcastle's record transfer. Now we're going back 13 years, and he's still their record transfer at 16 million quid. The game's moved on loads since then. And a club of Newcastle's size, they've got every right to be expecting that their owner is backing the manager far more than that. Because in this day and age where you've got smallest teams spending vast amounts of money, TV deals kicked in. So for Newcastle, for a club that regularly gets 50,000 fans into the stadium, for them to be spending that kind of money and not backing the manager, you do worry for them. You do worry for them. They've probably got just enough, I think, to avoid relegation this season. There's probably 3 teams that are worse than them, but I tell you what, it's going to be tight.
Yeah, I mean, Rafa's their big asset, and as you
absolutely, and they should be playing on that more. The fact they've got a manager who's achieved so much in the game, and listen, we know how much he's achieved in the game. He's taken us to huge heights. So for them not to use that, to not use his pulling power, because he would easily attract better players than they've been able to do. It seems like a real gamble by Ashley. It does.
Well, Ian's done all right, hasn't he? In the end, you know, after me wanting Kirsty Gallagher at the start. Just a few plugs for the Anfield Wrap stuff today. Tour moments in time. We've been plugging that one all week.
That looks a belter, by the way.
Yeah, it does look really good. The lads have worked really hard on it. They're all very proud of it, and it's going to be out there today. Give it a go, give it a listen, and spread the word as well if you like it. I mean, we always say that our best form of marketing is use. If you like the Anfield Wrap, go and tell other people. Keep it all going, and that's and we'll be very appreciative if you do that for us. Also out there today, the Fantasy League show and the Friday show previewing all the weekend's big games. There's also a new t-shirt out and about, a Stone Roses inspired Mo Salah t-shirt. I'm assured that that's already flying out, that people are buying them, so if you want one, get involved. There's not that many left already. And yeah, that has been Talking Reds. We'll be back with you tomorrow.